There's a huge problem with plant-based snacks on keto. If you eat a bunch of almonds or you eat a bunch of pecans, you eat a bunch of nuts, you end up with this hugely just disproportionate omega-6 to omega-3 ratio. You end up with a lot of phytic acid, a lot of oxalates, things that are going to slow down the absorption of nutrients. Not what we want. So I have 5 plant-based snacks that you can consume on keto that are not going to have that negative impact. So let's go ahead and let's dive in. So the first one I want to talk about is a company called Flackers. Okay, now you don't have to use Flackers. I just recommend any kind of flax cracker. Now what's funny is that flax catches a lot of, well, flack because they say, okay, well, it's going to be estrogenic, or sometimes they'll say it doesn't have much omega-3. Okay, let's break it down for a minute. The omega-3 component of flax is not what I care about. And it's not what you should care about either, because there's only a couple percent. It's worthless. To be able to market it as omega-3 is a joke. It's not what it is. The benefit is the unique kind of soluble fiber. And I don't care what you have to say about flax being good, bad, or ugly, it's the soluble fiber that is doing the magic, if you want to call it that. There's a study that was published in the British Journal of Nutrition that took a look at 58 obese women and had them consume 10 grams of flax for 6 weeks. After 6 weeks, they had a huge change in 33 species of their gut microbiome. 33 species had a huge abundance. That's crazy, as well as improved insulin sensitivity and improved glucose tolerance. Because as we get more microbial diversity, we create more short-chain fatty acids, we create more ability to process nutrients and metabolize things. It's a no-brainer when you look at how the microbiome works. So that's why flax crackers absolutely make the cut. Plus, the microbiome converts a specific component of flax into something called enterolactone. And enterolactone is largely correlated with not only good cardiovascular health, but also correlated with decrease in all-cause mortality. So you have this microbiome effect that comes from flax that is insurmountable when you try to compare it to anything else. So sure, the omega-3s are not what you get flax for, but it's a great plant-based solution on keto. The next one is going to be almond yogurt. I recommend Kite Hill because they seem to have nailed it the best when it comes down to the carb content. Okay, the thing with almond yogurt is you're still able to get sort of that probiotic effect that you would get from yogurt, maybe having as a snack, but without the dairy, of course, so it's plant-based. But what's interesting is when you look at the science, fermenting the almonds changes the bioenergetics. It changes how the mitochondria within what are called our enterocytes, the cells within our gut, receive the energy. So basically, the fermented almond component favors the energetic metabolism of the enterocytes, meaning that it's actually very, very good for your gut. So it's a perfect thing to add in the mix. So get an unsweetened kind and add some monk fruit or a little vanilla extract and make like a pudding out of it. Make something that's delicious, simple plant-based snack that's not going to skew your ratio. But the other thing that's interesting is that same study had demonstrated that fermented almond beverages or fermented almond in general is going to improve iron uptake out of the gut. This may sound like something that's minuscule, but for 2 reasons it's heavily important. 1, people that are doing plant-based typically don't get enough usable iron. Secondly, even if you are getting enough iron, the last place you want it is in your gut because it oxidizes things in your gut and it chelates. Just like if you were to leave an iron dumbbell out in the weather, it would rust and oxidize. You don't want oxidation happening in your gut because it's going to chelate other good minerals that you want. You want that iron out of the gut, in the bloodstream, doing its job and going into its ferric or ferrous state wherever it needs to go, right? So that's another big important reason why having some kind of fermented treat as your snack is very important. The next one, speaking of treats, is getting into more of a sweet category. This, if you're gonna go for a plant-based bar, I would recommend the Love Good Fats bar because they're probably the only one that has really nailed a plant-based bar. And mainly the benefit that I wanna speak to is the good quality inulin. There's a study that was published in the journal Metabolism that took a look at 14 overweight people. Okay, gave them a single serving, 1 serving of 24 grams inulin. And it found that after that, they had a huge improvement in their short-chain fatty acid content, meaning their gut biome improved significantly after just 1 big serving. Additionally, the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition published a study that compared 8 grams of inulin versus an 8-gram control maltodextrin. Okay, and they found that the group that consumed the inulin had improvements in satiety to the point where their food consumption was dramatically less throughout the rest of the day. It satiates you, makes you feel full, which is all the more reason to enjoy something like that. Love Good Fats use inulin, but they also use a bunch of other delicious components that make it completely keto friendly, very, very low sugar, but probably the most ridiculously good tasting, delicious bar that's out there, especially in the plant-based category. So this particular one is the chocolate chip cookie dough flavor, which is pretty much unheard of because I miss cookie dough when I'm on keto. So if you're plant-based, highly recommend that bar. And I've also been able to secure a little bit of a discount down below in the description. Using the code Thomas20 will save you 20% off any Love Good Fats product, whether you want to go their plant-based route or you want to go their traditional route where they have some other delicious flavors that aren't necessarily plant-based. But I'm telling you, this stuff is so good tasting, whether you're plant-based or not. The next one on the list is seaweed snacks. Okay, plant-based or not, this is an epic snack. Ridiculously low calorie, so you're not having this big like surge in calories. Practically no insulin spike because there's really nothing to spike insulin, so you're not getting this glucagon insulin imbalance spike. But you're also getting the iodine that you need to support the thyroid, which is very important on a lower carb protocol to make sure that the thyroid is rocking and keeping your metabolism going. But I'm less concerned with the iodine and I'm more focused on what is called fucoxanthin, which is a powerful flavonoid. There's a study that was published in Evidence-Based Complementary and Alternative Medicine. Okay, it found that fucoxanthin that you'd find in seaweed helps the beiging of white fat. It converts white fat into brown fat via the upregulation or the increase in uncoupling proteins. Now, uncoupling proteins make unusable, just unsightly storage white fat into metabolically active brown fat that dissipates calories as heat. So imagine being able to have white fat, which does nothing but sit there, or brown fat, which actually dissipates calories that you consume as heat. So we obviously want to beige more of that white fat to become more brown. And fucoxanthin has the power to do that. All the more reason to be adding this to your plant-based arsenal. But in that process, we also improve what's called beta oxidation. So we're improving and increasing the rate at which fats are utilized as a fuel source. We're oxidizing more fats that have been liberated through lipolysis. And more fats that are in your bloodstream are now going to get used at the cellular level for energy via what's called beta oxidation. And then to top it all off, beta glucans, which are a new heavily researched fiber, which is a specific kind of soluble fiber that has some powerful effects on short-chain fatty acids in the gut. More to come on that in a different video. And then last but certainly not least is Sacha Inchi seeds. Now, Trader Joe's has an amazing Sacha Inchi. Otherwise, it's a little bit harder to find. You usually have to get it on Amazon or anything like that. Now, when we circle back to the omega-3 components that I talked about before, when I was talking about flax and kind of saying disregard it, Sacha Inchi, although it still has the alpha-linolenic acid, which is not exactly the best omega-3, it has such a high abundance of it, you actually do get a little bit of an omega-3 benefit from it. So if you're really trying to kind of balance that and get omega-3s on a plant-based keto protocol, it's a good seed to lean into rather than having like almonds or cashews or anything like that. So the Sacha Inchi, if you were to combine it with a little bit of turmeric, turmeric enhances the conversion of the alpha-linolenic acid into what's called eicosapentaenoic or docosahexaenoic acid. These are the fats that we actually want of the omega-3s, not the hardly usable plant-based form. So anyhow, adding a little bit of turmeric to make a big difference. But I think the main component that I like about Sacha Inchi is it is exceptionally rich in leucine. And leucine is the one amino acid that you really, really need. That's the one that's going to protect your muscles. That's the one that's going to spare you from muscle protein breakdown. A lot of nuts and seeds don't have leucine in them at a high amount. Sacha Inchi, that's the most prevalent amino, so you definitely want to lean into that. But it's also unique because it has more of the sulfur-containing aminos, which are normally, like we don't usually get the sulfur-containing aminos. We usually have to diversify the different foods that we eat, if you're plant-based, to get a complete and total amino profile. But because Sacha Inchi is so unique, it's almost entirely complete, but it has the sulfur-containing aminos like methionine and tryptophan that are harder to get your hands on in the first place. So it's as close to a complete protein as you're going to get with a seed. So I highly recommend it for that situation. And last but not least within that, it also is super high in phytosterol. So if you're consuming a bunch of these fats and you're concerned with cholesterol, well, let me tell you, with keto, you probably shouldn't be too concerned because the body utilizes yada, yada, different story. Phytosterols compete with cholesterols for absorption. So the more phytosterols that you consume, it competes with cholesterols for absorption within the gut, thereby limiting how much is actually getting into the bloodstream. So just to recap, we have flaxseed crackers, we have unsweetened almond yogurt that you can sweeten with some monk fruit or so. We have Love Good Fats plant-based bars, okay, which again, code Thomas20 for 20% off. Okay, then we have seaweed, and then we have Sacha Inchi that you can get through Trader Joe's or on Amazon. As always, keep it locked in here on my channel. I'll see you tomorrow.